Here is William Talley, a police officer who is doing everything in his power to sound like an insane person in front of the investigators questioning him. You might be wondering, why on earth is a policeman sitting on the other side of the interrogation room? And why is he screaming so much? Well, you're in for a horrific surprise. On a fine spring day of May 11, 2019, the Columbus Police Department received a wild 911 call about a potential domestic abuse case. Apparently, William Talley, a former police officer of the Columbus Police Department, had a heated argument with his girlfriend and things escalated really quickly, which eventually led him to shoot her. But here's what's more confusing. William steals his girlfriend's car and escapes. However, he soon calls her neighbor and tells her what had happened, and that he was uncertain whether she was dead or alive. It seems that William Talley, a married man, was having an affair with a woman named Kelly Levinson, who was a paramedic. The police stormed into her house only to find Kelly Levinson dead on the floor lying in a pool of blood. She had been shot in the head. Kelly Levinson was a beloved and kind-hearted individual who held a prominent role in society. Her neighbors had nothing bad to say about her. The only mistake she ever made was to date Talley, a married man with whom she would have numerous arguments that didn't seem so peaceful according to her neighbors. The neighbors reveal that William has been quite the frequent visitor at Levinson's house. A neighbor next door spills the beans, saying she's seen him there at all sorts of times, like a regular clockwork, 3 to 4 times a week for the past 4 or 5 months. Sometimes he'd just pop in for a few hours, and other times his car would camp out overnight. Now this is where the real drama unfolds. Since Talley was a former sergeant, finding him would be more difficult than normal people. This prompted the police department to question some of his old colleagues to get some relevant information. Now this is where the tables turn for the good. The police receive a 911 call stating that William Talley had crashed Kelly's car that he had stolen and had been injured. William was arrested by the police and taken to hospital for examination. After making sure about his state after the crash, he was taken into custody for an interrogation that is more dramatic than the Oscars. As you can see, Talley is still in a dazed condition due to the crash. The interrogator reads his rights as Talley shows signs of a concussion. For the very first time, he's on the receiving end of an interrogation instead of being the one dishing out the tough questions. Right now, William might appear all cool and collected, but little does he know, his world is about to be turned upside down. When it finally sinks in that his career is about to take a nosedive, that calm facade is going to crumble faster than a house of cards. As you can see, Talley is clearly acting confused, or so it seems. He starts crying and acts like he doesn't know what's going on. As soon as the interrogator mentions Kelly's name, Talley loses composure and starts behaving erratically. By the way he is behaving, one might think that he doesn't know what he did, or the grievousness of his actions. William knew what he had done from the very beginning. It's clear that he was putting on an act of insanity. If he really was insane, why would he make a run for it? Why would he make use of his police training skills to hide for so long? All of his emotions change in a matter of seconds as he asks for a lawyer. This might be the moment when he realizes that his life is not going to be the same anymore. The investigators knew that they were not going to get any information out of Talley. But the thing is, they didn't really need to, as the majority of the evidence pointed fingers at him. Talley was sentenced to a life behind bars and a possibility of parole after 30 years. Now nothing can prepare you for the next case, for the cop is literally a sociopath, a case that had been unsolved for a whopping 23 years. It's February 24, 1986, and a young woman named Sherry Rasmussen is found lifeless in her apartment by her husband. At first, it seemed like a tragic case of a burglary gone wrong, but there was so much more to this story. Stephanie Lazarus, an officer from the LAPD, had a secret crush on Sherry's husband, John Ruetten. But when John decided to end their on-again, off-again relationship and tie the knot with Sherry, it ignited a fire of jealousy within Stephanie. Stephanie was a brilliant detective who had recently earned herself some well-deserved praise for cracking a tricky theft case. The police force knew what Stephanie had done, so they approached her under the guise of seeking her assistance with a different case and took her into an interrogation room. Stephanie knows something is up as her body language changes all of a sudden when John Ruetten's name is mentioned. She insists on knowing about the reason why she was being questioned about her old flame. Despite the detective's attempts to appear friendly and relaxed, Stephanie grew increasingly anxious during the interrogation. As you can see, Stephanie is spewing lies when she says she doesn't know Sherry that well. In fact, Stephanie and John, once college sweethearts, shared a dorm and had a serious relationship. But alas, their love story didn't quite have a fairy tale ending. However, her heart still clung to the memories of her ex-boyfriend, John. It was a tough pill to swallow when she discovered that John had moved on and was now in a serious relationship with Sherry Rasmussen, a talented nursing director. You can sense the fear in Stephanie's face as she is lost for words. On that fateful day, when Sherry's life was tragically cut short by 3 gunshot wounds, leaving behind a haunting crime scene, there was another piece of evidence that added to the puzzle: a bite mark on Sherry's arm. The investigators swiftly collected DNA from this mark, hoping it would lead them to the perpetrator. As suspicions grew, Sherry's family pointed fingers at Stephanie as a strong suspect. In a covert operation, authorities managed to secretly obtain Stephanie's DNA sample during her working hours. And guess what? A match was established. The evidence was mounting against her. Now that is a blatant lie, because even after John and Sherry got married, Stephanie forcefully invited herself into their relationship and acted like a third wheel. Even though Sherry was uncomfortable with her interfering, John confirmed that she was harmless. But that's not all. Stephanie's own pistol, which she had reported stolen a mere 13 days after the incident, turned out to be a match for the weapon used at the crime scene. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, painting a damning picture of Stephanie's involvement. It's clear that Lazarus is hiding something. She may act innocent right now, but the officers already know that she harassed Sherry multiple times, causing distress in her professional life. And if that wasn't enough, Stephanie had the audacity to show up uninvited at Sherry and John's house, further fueling Sherry's unease. This is where Stephanie realizes that all has been lost, and she is being treated as a suspect. Now let's talk about the aftermath of the trial and the sentencing of Lazarus, the person convicted of the heinous crime. The judge handed down a severe punishment, sentencing Lazarus to 27 years to life in state prison. This sentence was for the charge of willful, deliberate first-degree murder, with a special circumstance allegation. However, there was a glimmer of hope for Lazarus. Due to the possibility of good behavior and time already served, she was granted 1,608 days of credit towards her sentence. During the sentencing, Lazarus maintained a forward-facing demeanor, seemingly unaffected by the gravity of the situation. On the other hand, the family members of Sherry Rasmussen, the victim, took the stand and tearfully testified about the immense loss they had suffered. Their heartfelt words painted a vivid picture of the pain and devastation caused by Sherry's untimely death. Despite the emotional testimonies, Lazarus remained stoic, never once glancing in the direction of Sherry's grieving family, even when Sherry's widowed husband took the stand, sharing the prosecution's belief that Lazarus had committed the crime out of jealousy for his affections. Lazarus showed no signs of acknowledgement or remorse, proving once again that sociopaths come in all shapes and sizes.